What if I told you that an ancient text, more than 2,500 years old, holds a secret to how we experience reality? A secret so powerful that getting it just a little bit wrong could lock you into a cycle of suffering. Well, that text is real. And today we're diving into the story of a monk who made that exact mistake. So let's meet Sāti. He's a monk living back in ancient India. And he has this huge aha moment. He stands up and basically says, "I've got it. I finally get what the Buddha's teaching. It's this one single consciousness, this me, that experiences everything and just keeps on going, life after life." For him, it felt like he just cracked the entire puzzle of the self. But when the Buddha hears about Sāti's big revelation, the reaction isn't a high five. It's a serious, serious warning. He calls it a pernicious view, which is a powerful way of saying it's a dangerously wrong idea. An idea that doesn't lead to freedom, but actually creates the very suffering we're all trying to get away from. So what on earth did Sāti get so catastrophically wrong? To really get why this was such a big deal, we have to look at how this whole thing went down. I mean, this wasn't some friendly philosophical debate. It was basically a spiritual emergency. As the story goes in the original Pali texts, Sāti's monk buddies were, well, freaked out. They rushed to him, saying things like, "Friend Sāti, please don't say that. You're misrepresenting the teacher." They tried to explain that the Buddha taught something totally different, that consciousness only pops up because of specific conditions. But Sāti, he just dug in his heels. He was so sure he was right that the other monks realized, okay, this is above our pay grade. They had to take it all the way to the top. All right, to crack this case, we have to put on our detective hats and look at the main piece of evidence, the word consciousness itself. And, at first glance, it seems pretty straightforward. The word Sāti was wrestling with is vijnana. And yeah, if you just look it up in a standard dictionary, this is what you get. It's our awareness, our mind, the simple fact that we're conscious. And when you look at it this way, Sāti's idea seems, kind of logical, right? Of course, it's the same me that's aware of everything. But here's the catch. This is where a simple, direct translation can actually hide the real meaning. To see what the Buddha was truly getting at, we have to do what ancient linguists did. We need to break this word apart and look at its building blocks. See, in Pali, words are often like Legos. Vijnana isn't just one solid piece. It's actually built from two different parts, a little prefix, vi, and a root verb, ñā. And each part has a very specific job to do. So that prefix vi, it acts like a highlighter. It means to divide something, to distinguish, to know something in a specific way. And ñā is just the basic idea of knowing. So when you snap these two pieces together, you don't just get plain old knowing. You get something so much more active, so much more dynamic. Vijnana isn't a static thing that you have called consciousness. It's the act of knowing specifically, the process of telling this from that. It's a verb, an action, a process, not some permanent thing you can point to. And this right here is the first major clue. Now, the Buddha knew this was a tricky idea. So to make it absolutely crystal clear, he didn't just give a language lesson. He used this brilliant, vivid metaphor that anyone, then or now, could instantly grasp. He told Sāti and everyone else, hey, just think about consciousness like you think about fire. And this is such a perfect analogy because a fire seems like a real, solid thing, right? But what it actually is something else entirely. Here's the core of the metaphor. A fire is always, always named after whatever it's burning. You can't have fire just floating around in the abstract. The flame and the fuel are completely inseparable. They are two sides of the same event. Think about it. If a fire is burning a log, we call it a wood fire. If it's burning dry grass, we call it a grass fire. If it's burning a pile of trash, it's a rubbish fire. The fire doesn't exist on its own and then decide to burn some wood. No, its very identity, its whole existence, comes from the fuel. And now for the big reveal. The Buddha explains that vijnana, our consciousness, works on this exact same principle. It has no life of its own. It's totally dependent. The fuel for consciousness is simply a sense organ meeting an object. So when your eye makes contact with a shape, what flares up is eye consciousness. When your ear meets a sound, boom, ear consciousness. When your mind connects with a thought, you get a flash of mind consciousness. Each one is a totally separate conditional event. This just nails it, doesn't it? Consciousness isn't some continuous substance that does the perceiving.
It's a series of momentary events that flare up when the right conditions are there, and poof, they're gone when the conditions change. Just like a fire goes out when it runs out of fuel.
Okay, this is a really cool philosophical point, but why was the Buddha so serious about it? Why call Sāti's idea dangerous? Because this isn't just about getting definitions right, it's about the fundamental mechanism of our own freedom. Let's put it side by side. Sāti saw consciousness like a single flame, like a soul that just jumps from one log to the next, one experience to the next, totally unchanged. The Buddha showed that it's actually like a series of brand new fires, each one igniting and dying out based on its specific fuel. There's no single thing that's jumping around. And the Buddha's statement here is just absolute. He says, apart from a condition, there is no arising of consciousness. It cannot exist on its own. It is 100% dependent on other things coming together.
And here is why that is the key to everything. When we believe in a solid, permanent self, our whole life becomes this project of defending it and making it happy. We grab on to pleasant feelings, we push away unpleasant ones, and that very act of grabbing and pushing, the Pali word is upadana, that clinging is the fuel for the next fire of suffering. But if you can see consciousness for what it truly is, just an impersonal, conditional process, suddenly there's no self there to protect. You've just taken the fuel away from the fire.
This is the punchline. This whole insight isn't some dusty academic idea. It's a practical tool for your own mind. Really seeing the flickering, dependent nature of your own awareness, moment by moment. That is the very practice that starves the fires of anxiety, anger, and craving. It is the path to freedom itself. And so this ancient story leaves us with this huge, mind-bending question. If there's no single, continuous fire, no unchanging you running the show, if all you are is just this series of dependent, flickering sparks of awareness, then who or what are you really?